Evening, everybody. Brittany, you're a tough act to follow.
Oh, that's
I might be, I don't know, you guys know me lecturing, I might be pacing around a little bit. I don't know if I can sit here like this, but anyway, Perry, thank you. This is a fun event. I appreciate you putting this together. So, let's see where to start. I guess it was about 5 years ago, the medical students, you know how they put on the Pearls night, the Pearls event? They asked me one time, hey, would you like to talk at Pearls? And I'm like, well, what do you do at Pearls? What's that about? And they're like, well, you tell a story that, will kind of give us some pearls about moving into our residency. And I thought, well, I don't know. What am I going to tell you? I mean, I teach anatomy. I spend all my time in the anatomy lab. What am I going to tell you? So I thought about it for a while, and I thought, well, there was a life lesson that I learned as a young boy that I carry with me a lot. And I thought, I guess I could tell this kind of crazy story about when I was little, and maybe, it has a meaning at the end, all right? And I'll share that with you when we get to the end. So I'll tell you this story, but I have to preface it, and it takes a little while to build this story, all right? So please bear with me, because there's a lot of moving parts as we kind of get going. So you kind of have to pay attention to follow it. And as I tell it, I promise you're going to be thinking, Kernick, what the hell are you doing? This is going to mean absolutely nothing, all right? But I promise I'll bring it around for you at the end, all right? So this goes back to, say, 1970. So I'm 10 years old, all right? I grew up in western Pennsylvania, about 15 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Kind of a little steel town, very Catholic community. Everybody had tons of kids. I was one of 6 kids, all right? My parents had 6 children within 9 years. And so our house was packed. And my grandmother lived with us. There was 9 people in the house. I mean, every meal was crazy. And as I'm a 10-year-old, I'm the youngest of 6, all right? And I always wanted a dog, just like Brittany. So 10 years old, and I am constantly begging my parents, can I have a dog? I really want a dog. And they're like, nah, our house is nuts, Ed. You can't have a dog. You just can't have one more live creature in this house. Okay? And so I worked them. I mean, I worked them hard. I wanted to get this dog in the worst way. And so finally they gave in, all right? And they said, okay, you can have a dog. And as it turns out, my father was one of 3 brothers, and the 3 brothers lived beside each other. My father's name is Ed, like mine, and then his brother Bill, and his other brother Jim, and we all lived in a row, all right? Bill, my Uncle Bill, was a veterinarian, lived right beside us, and his veterinary practice was right beside us. It was another reason why I always wanted a dog, because I was seeing dogs all the time, and asking my dad, hey, can I have a dog? Can I have a dog? He's like, well, go over to Uncle Bill's. You can play with dogs all day long. We don't need to get you a dog, all right? But I wanted a dog in the worst way, always begging for it. I wanted the dog to be able to sleep with me up in the attic. I just wanted, me and my brother slept in the attic of this house, and that's a whole other story. I don't think there was any heat in the attic in the house. When we would wake up in the morning, you could see your breath. It was so cold up there. That's probably why I wanted a dog with me up there. But anyway, my parents finally gave in. They said, okay, Ed, you can have a dog. Dog can't sleep with you. The dog has to stay in the basement, all right? Which was fine. And I was like, I'm good with that. As long as I can have a dog, that'll be all right. And so they said to my uncle, next time someone comes in and has a dog that maybe they don't want or whatever, Ed wants a dog, give him a dog, let's get him a dog. So my uncle comes over one day, and they give me this little dog, and it was probably a year or 2 old, I don't know. It was a mixture. It was like half beagle, half basset hound, just a little bit of everything. A small dog, short legs, but it had kind of reddish fur, and I loved it. I mean, I just flat out loved this dog, right? And it was fast. And that's why I called it Flash, because it was red and it would run really fast. I was 10, okay? Every day I'd come home from school, and that's all I'd do is go out in the yard, play with my dog, you know, and he was a great, great, great dog, all right? Now, he had one maybe not so redeeming quality, okay? He was kind of like the Mike Tyson of dogs, all right? Like, he liked, and I wasn't proud of this, but he liked to fight, all right? He was a scrapper, all right? He just liked to fight other dogs, plain and simple, all right? And I was horrified about it, and part of the reason, you know, we lived beside my uncle, who's a veterinarian. There's dogs coming in all the time, you know, poor thing. You know, he would just like, he just couldn't put up with all these other dogs that were coming around all the time, all right? The other thing is, you have to understand, back in 1970 in western Pennsylvania, and maybe where some of you grew up too, you know, there were no leash laws. I mean, they just didn't have leash laws like we have now. I mean, when you owned a dog and the dog had to go out, you opened the door and let it out, and off it went, and you hoped it came home. You know, so it just was not uncommon for there to be dogs everywhere. I mean, there just were dogs everywhere. I'd be out in my yard after school playing with my dog Flash, and another male dog would come into the yard, and Flash would run over and grab it by the neck. And he did pretty well for being a little dog. I mean, he got whooped a few times, but for the most part, he did pretty well. But I always felt bad about it, but nevertheless, that was just the nature of it. So I know you're thinking, like, where is this going? So fast forward a couple of years later, and everything's good. You know, Flash sleeps in the basement. Everyone in the family loves him. My parents fall in love with this dog. They love him, all right? Flash is like, you know, the king of the neighborhood. And my older sister, Rennie, she's about 18. She brings home another dog. You know, mom and dad like the dog. I'm going to get a dog. So she brings home this beautiful Irish setter. I mean, this dog, to this day, might be the prettiest dog I've ever seen. Purebred. I still to this day don't know where she got him. All right. But anyway, she brings home this dog, Casey. All right, and it is just flat out gorgeous. And my parents are like, "All right, you're 18. You know, we like Flash. Maybe we'll like this dog too." Flash didn't like this dog. You can imagine another male dog. Flash tore this thing up whenever that it had a chance. I mean, they just scrapped, like, you know, like the old Looney Tune cartoons where, you know, dogs would kind of like that. You'd see an arm stick out. That's what it was like for a while, you know. But after a while, Flash and Casey, they finally got along. You know, after a couple of years, they slept in the basement together. They just were good buddies, you know, even though Flash would still fight other dogs, all right? So a couple more years go by, and then one of my other older sisters, Jean, she comes home. It's a Friday night, all right? It's about, I guess it's about 11:30. I don't know why. My whole family's in bed. Everybody's asleep, all right? She comes pulling into the driveway. House is dark, all right? Pulls in, she has one of these old cars, Mavericks, if anybody ever remembers a Maverick, okay? Pulls into the Maverick, right, parks the car, and then Casey jumps up on the side of the car, you know, like right up on the door. It's a big dog, right? And Jeannie's like, "Casey, what the hell are you doing here?" You know, and she gets out of the car, and Casey's running around, and she's like, you know, it's like dark, you know, what are you doing? We didn't leave our dogs out at night, you know. So Casey's all happy to see her, and she grabs Casey, and you know, she takes her up the front steps and opens the door and comes into the house, and like, "Casey, I gotta get you down in the basement, you know, it's late." So she goes down to the end of the hall and opens up the door to put Casey down in the basement and "Come on, Casey, down in there." She doesn't even get 2 steps down, right? Flash comes running up the steps, grabs Casey by the neck, all right? It is the dog fight of all dog fights, all right? I'm talking dining room chairs getting knocked over, tables, lamps. I mean, it sounds like an unbelievable dog fight at 11:30 at night. I'm up in the attic, I hear it, I come running downstairs, wakes everybody up in the house. My dad comes running down, he's a gun, all right? I mean, he was carrying a pistol down. It was so loud and so destructive. And I mean, they are just going through the dining room and the living room and the kitchen and just rolling. And we're like, "Flash, what the hell are you doing?" you know, and I'm going crazy and trying to get them apart. We're all in our pajamas, and you know, so finally we get these two dogs apart. And I mean, there's like, you know, poor Casey is just whooped. I mean, Flash just had his way with this dog, right? So we finally get the dogs apart. My dad's like, you know, Ed, I want you to take Casey down to the basement and, you know, clean Casey up. You know, look at him. I mean, he's just a mess. So I like go over and I'm like, you know, starting to get downstairs. I'm starting to get down into the basement. I look at the bottom of the steps. There's Casey. There's Casey at the bottom of the steps. I'm like, Dad, this isn't Casey. It's not our dog. To this day, I don't know whose dog it was. She's got the shit kicked out of her. I mean, it is just what? You know, we're like looking at it, and then it's like the family's like looking around, they're like, oh my God, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different, you know. My dog's like, my dad's like, get this dog out of here. So we go over and open the front door, he's like, get out of here. Dog hit the ground, started running. To this day, we never saw it again. We never, ever knew whose poor dog this was. Casey's just sitting at the bottom of the steps. What's going on up there? So, true story. So the moral of the story is, what I learned from it is things in life are not always what they appear to be. Right? And so as you go out, you get into medicine and you get into practice, things will become routine for you a lot of times. You know, you'll see patients in pneumonia or appendicitis or a sore throat or the flu, and it'll, you know, it's easy to get into that routine. Yeah, this is pneumonia, yeah, let me give you this antibiotic. But keep that in mind, because sometimes things present a little bit different, and so it might end up being a helpful pearl for you. So, thank you guys for your time.